Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. I am Adam Weinrib, joined as always by Fansided MLB Insider Robert Murray, and now it's just over 48 hours until the trade deadline, Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We are back, of course, with you for the second of 4 straight days of shows as we attempt to get to the bottom of what's going on and answer as many of your questions as we can. If you joined us yesterday, if you joined us at the winter meetings last year, you know these shows are question and answer heavy. So I expect a ton of comments. I expect to see a ton of familiar faces. I expect a lot of your teams represented. Get them in. We will get to as many of you as we can. Robert, still waiting for that dam to break, though.
That we are. And it's good to be here with you. Happy Tuesday. I almost said hump day. I was almost getting ahead of myself, but it's only Tuesday, and today has been incredibly slow. Obviously, still texting a bunch of people, trying to talk to as many people as I can. But this feels like the calm before the storm. And there's plenty of stuff that's still going on behind the scenes, a lot of groundwork being laid for potential deals. So I'm anxious to dive into that, anxious to open up my notebook. Shall be a good time. Adam Weinrib, how we doing? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. We're doing all right. Again, I think yesterday started to feel the frenzy building around 4:35. Got some weird rumors like the Yankees and Dustin May. Our show was kind of hectic, and I was like, maybe Tuesday will just roll into Wednesday and roll into Thursday. And now, after last night, when the only trade-related news was Eugenio Suarez getting drilled on the hand, it really kind of felt like we slowed to a bit of a crawl. But we've got plenty of rumors to hopefully give everybody some info on. And I have some talking points, but obviously get your questions in. We will answer them. And if we don't answer them, hit that join button. Join us in the Discord. Become a member of the Baseball Insiders. And we will see you in the Discord between shows. You can ask Robert and I as many questions as you would like, and we'll try to answer them. But obviously, again, a bit of a period of stagnation before we wait for somebody to make the first move. You can also read the Moonshot. That's where Robert and the rest of the Fansided MLB team send the latest in their weekly baseball email newsletter directly to your inbox, breaking down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, behind-the-scenes info. You can read all that and more on fansided.com/baseball-insiders. I mentioned the Suarez thing. Might as well start there because we're starting to get a little bit of clarity on his market and his health. I mean, x-rays were negative last night after he terrified everybody for the second time in as many weeks with an HPP on the wrist. You and I were in Atlanta 2 weeks ago today when he got drilled on the hand by Shane Smith, and everybody went, oh, good Lord. I thought this was supposed to be an exhibition. But see, like, flashbacks to this thing counts. It would have counted big time, but he escaped that one unscathed. Escaped last night as far as we know, but not playing today. I saw a rumor just before this show from Seattle that the Mariners are backing off on their Suarez pursuit a little bit. The price is not coming down. I'm seeing the Reds thinking about pivoting. I'm seeing the Brewers considering pivoting. What does the market look like, and who's still in it as long as his hand remains intact?
Yeah, that's first of all, let's discuss him leaving the game yesterday, because that was just it. I watched it happen live, and my first reaction is, oh my God, this just changed the trade deadline. And he didn't even fight to stay in the game. Granted, it was late in the ball game for sure, but like, he went into the locker room, got MRIs or X-rays done, and they came back negative, which is good news. He's going to undergo more scans and everything. He's not in the lineup today. But it seems like a disaster was averted there for the Diamondbacks. And yeah, there is a ton of interest in Eugenio Suarez. And no, okay, that's nothing. It's that time of the year. But no, there's plenty of interested teams. The Cubs definitely, for me, are one of the teams that stand out. I also thought it was very interesting that Bryce Harper, he made some comments to a reporter there in Philadelphia about his willingness to like move positions or something if it meant them getting a guy like Eugenio Suarez. So definitely looking at Philadelphia as a team that could make some sense there. The Brewers, we've talked about them before. They're also interested in Ryan O'Hearn, as Ken Rosenthal reported. That is indeed accurate. But there's plenty of teams. If he's healthy, I expect him to get traded. The Mariners thing is kind of interesting. They are looking for bullpen help, and the fact that it became so public that they're pivoting makes me wonder if that's kind of a ploy to get the price to come down from Arizona's side. Remains to be seen, but there's a lot to happen here, and I expect him to go again if he's healthy.
He is the jewel of the deadline, it would seem, and we hope that all those scans turn out as we, cross our fingers that we do get a big bombshell deal. Another potential biggest deal of the deadline, though, Ken Rosenthal's notes posted at basically midnight on the East Coast last night, said what we all thought and what we theorized on the last show, that the Guardians are now more likely to trade Stephen Kwan after the Class A suspension than they were before it, but of course could also easily do so in the offseason. He has plenty of control remaining. Rosenthal mentioned the Jays, Phillies, Padres, and Dodgers. What is your read on the accuracy of that, both Kwan moving, in the next 48 hours and the teams that are interested?
This one is a very interesting situation to watch. And my guess is this could end up being the talk of the next 48 hours. And do I expect the Guardians to move Stephen Kwan? I don't think it's likely. But teams are going to come calling them, and it's going to range from the Padres to, the Dodgers were mentioned by Rosenthal. I don't know how likely that one is at this point. There's a lot of different teams that are going to be calling the Guardians, and I would expect the interest in him to be significant. And if he's moved, he would easily be the best player that's moved at this deadline, not named Rafael Devers. But the price for him is said to be very high, as it should be. But things changed with the Guardians when Emmanuel Clase ended up being placed on what is it? I can't remember what list it was called. Yeah. He's not suspended, but he's on paid leave through August 31st. Yes. And that, the Guardians were listening on Clase, like that. I thought that had a chance of happening. And within the last 72 hours before it came out, they backed off, and they basically did a total 180 in their stance and trade talks. And for the Guardians, it basically eliminated any chance of them buying, and it put guys like Kwan into play for teams, and they're checking in to see exactly what it'll take for the Guardians to give him up. It also increases the chances of a Shane Bieber trade possibly happening, and I know that's somebody I mentioned on the show yesterday with the Boston Red Sox. I could see Detroit Tigers. The Giants, maybe if they're looking for a starting pitcher, although I don't know if they'd look that for a salary that big. But there's going to be plenty of interest in both of those guys. I don't think it's impossible for either one to move. If they move one of them, I'd probably put Bieber in the more likely of the two category. But those are two names to watch for sure here in the next 48 to 72 hours.
I see the comments blowing up, and you guys, sometimes before us because we're on the stream, and so I'm seeing Charlie Morton traded, so I'm scrambling. Got to clarify, not traded, did do a hug watch in the dugout with his Orioles teammates because A, he was really good today, and B, I just think they all know it's pretty inevitable this is his last start in Baltimore. So early hug watch, just showing the guy some appreciation, but not pulled from today's start via hug, just hugged after the start. And I want to encourage men to show emotion like that. Sometimes it's good to hug your boy.
No, hey, we appreciate a good hug on this program over here. It's good to hug your boys. It's I don't know, hugging is nice. But he had thrown 100 pitches at that point. He was taken out of the game at, I believe it was after 6 innings. So it was definitely not a case of a hug watch. We were watching him hug, so I guess it was a hug watch, but it was not for a trade by any means. But I'd be very surprised if he made another start in Baltimore. And the roster now, compared to what it's going to look like on August 1st, is probably going to look a lot different. And I would expect Morton is going to get a good amount of interest. There's a lot of teams around the league who view him as an under-the-radar kind of guy who they can get for relatively cheap.
So you take Class A out of that reliever market, probably. You'd hope. No one should be doing that. No. Theoretically, still a lot of buildup there. Duran goes last night, surrenders the tie-breaking run in Boston, or in Minnesota against Boston.
Yeah, I thought you meant he got traded. I'm like, wait a second.
No. He pitches last night. He appears last night. Okay. So does Griffin Jacks. So do a bunch of other bullpen arms. But that is the area of the market where if you have a David Bednar, you have an extra year of control, you have a Dennis Santana, you can drive this thing. There is a report that Bednar, they're looking at a top 5 prospect, and you told me earlier that feels about right for a starting point if that's the kind of guy you have in your arsenal. But it feels to me like the relief market is all going to collapse like a whole bunch of dominoes once one dude goes, but we're still waiting on that dude to go, and it might be Thursday. Is that read accurate?
Yeah, I would say that's probably about accurate. And this bullpen market is very active. There's a lot of teams that are going to be involved in this, and David Bednar is definitely a player who is drawing pretty strong interest, is how I would describe it. And the asking price is indeed like an organization's top 5 prospect and then some. So it's not overly that pricey compared to what the Twins are asking for Duran and Jax. It's reasonable. That's why I think a trade involving Bednar is likely. There's obviously a lot that can happen between now and the deadline, but he is definitely somebody who's on the radar for a lot of teams like Philadelphia. Texas is looking for a reliever, and they've been pretty active in that space. That being said, I don't know how much salary they're willing to add at this point. I thought Ken Rosenthal made a very good point about the luxury tax there. There's a lot of different teams who are looking for bullpen help, so they should find no shortage of suitors there whatsoever. Another one that is kind of flying under the radar here is Anthony Bender with the Miami Marlins. He is drawing some pretty strong trade interest as well, and I would not be surprised if he could be part of like a package deal where he's not the only Marlins player that's moved in that deal. So we'll see. Obviously, deals can take on many different structures, but that would not surprise me at all. The Twins relievers, I mean, Jax, Duran, the asking prices there are so high that I don't know what the likelihood is there. I'm still would be really surprised if they move Joe Ryan. So we'll see there, but the Twins got a lot of very coveted pitchers, but the asking prices are so much that could make them tough to move.
As Bob Nightingale reports during the show, the medical test on Suarez came back clean. He's expected to return to the lineup Wednesday in Arizona's day game against the Tigers. So that is the latest. Appreciate Tipster on that one. You mentioned the Marlins. We'll get to the comments in a second. I know we got a lot to get through, but we were talking Sandy Alcantara before the show. So how comfortable are you? I know there are some reports out there that the market's heating up a little bit and maybe a trade is more likely than not, but what are you hearing?
Yeah, I've seen the reports about Sandy Alcantara's market heating up. I don't believe that to be the case. We're still in a very wait and see mode. I'd probably put the chances of a trade happening at around like 50-50. So that is currently where I'm at, but his market is not heating up. And as I said yesterday, I would expect that to be probably a Thursday decision for the Marlins to make, but we're just not there quite yet. I don't expect it to happen during the show today, although that would be really funny timing. But no, that is currently where all the all caps comments, those are too aggressive for my liking. You'll never get a response from me if you do an all caps.
I also think you meant Cease is getting shopped, not shipped. And again, be careful with the comments. Double check, reread them, because we're definitely relying on your comments a little bit. You make me check. I'm trying to, host and facilitate. Some guy complimented me on how well I can talk if given 2 minutes to just go off on a topic. And I thought that was a compliment, but then a bunch of people were like, nah, dude, he's reading you for filth. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that was backhanded. But, we don't know.
I thought that was a genuine compliment. I see. I'm a glass half full kind of guy, but I read that as a compliment. Yeah.
I say me too, and then I think about how I watch baseball, and no, I'm not. But sometimes I am. I thought that was a compliment. We appreciate all comments, critiques, what have you, and thanks for the comments. I want to get into. We've got Red Sox first base pitching update asked a couple of times, and obviously that ties into the folks who are asking about Mitch Keller. And so I would, because Mitch Keller got tied to the Red Sox by Noah Hiles, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette earlier today, claiming they checked in. So thoughts on Yandy, thoughts on Keller, and thoughts on the Red Sox in general.
Yeah, the Red Sox, they actually just signed Chadwick Tromp to a minor league deal. So I mean, they're making moves.
Tromp time.
But no, the Red Sox. We talked about them pretty extensively yesterday, and I'll say a lot of what I ended up saying there is Yandy Diaz makes a tremendous amount of sense for them, especially with the Rays more likely than not to sell. He's a very productive player. Diaz is signed for a relatively affordable contract, especially for the production there. He's controllable, I believe. It's just he's a player that it would not just be Boston in that market. It would be so many other teams. So I expect him to draw a significant amount of interest. Whether or not they ultimately move him remains to be seen. They got some pretty enticing stuff last year and held on to him. Same case with Pete Fairbanks last year. They would never really entertain moving him. But both of those guys, it feels like they're more willing to listen on them now than they were back then. So we'll see what exactly that means, but the price for both will be pretty high. And with the Red Sox's pursuit for a starting pitcher, they are definitely looking in that area. They've asked all around, and they're the latest team that's been connected to Mitch Keller in reports. I believe that was Noah Hiles, as you said. And I mean, that's just a case of Craig Breslow doing his due diligence. That's just what executives do at this point. I still think Shane Bieber makes a lot of sense there in Boston, but they are surely casting a wider net than just those two.
If you need to figure out, if you're on the borderline, you need to figure out if you're a buyer or seller, the worst thing that you can do is go play the New York Yankees. Now, the Rays are stuck in purgatory. They're like, what the hell? Like, wait, that was really easy. We just won that was so simple. Are we good? So sorry to Red Sox and Reds fans and anyone else connected to Yandy Diaz and Brandon Lau. The Rays are in Yankee Stadium, so they're going to probably go ahead and grab a couple W's and complicate their picture. Compliments on my beard. I use no oils, but I appreciate it. Flattery will not take you very far in these comments. You're trying, but we do have I want to talk about the Mets and Luis Robert Jr. anyway, because I think this is interesting for two reasons. We're hearing the connection more and more. The Mets need to figure out a way to clear this infield logjam. And every day I go back and forth on which guy it's going to be. Like, I was all in on maybe capitalize on Vientos' postseason last year. Then he hits that granny yesterday, and it reminds me how talented he is. Every time I watch Brett Beatty, he doesn't do anything, but obviously he's a better player than I've seen. Luis Angel Acuna brings you speed. Like, Ronnie Mauricio is the one I would have ranked lowest, and then he has a huge game over the weekend and shows you that he has a unique skill set, a tough one to match. Where are you on Luis Robert and the New York Mets, and which Mets do you think are going to be the odd Mets out?
I see the Luis Robert Jr. fit with the Mets. It's crystal clear. And David Stearns, when he was talking to the media the other week, he said if they ended up adding a center fielder, they'd want it to move the needle for them. And to me, despite his struggles, Luis Robert Jr., he absolutely moves the needle for me. And he's got tremendous upside, probably more than any option at that position on this market by far. Cedric Mullins is obviously he's a tremendously talented player for sure. But if everything clicks with Luis Robert Jr., that's a big if. And plus the if factor, if he can actually be on the field, it's an upside play that I think the Mets, the Padres, or just any other team that's in the position to look for an outfielder should explore. And what it means for their infield logjam and with the Mets remains to be seen. Although I think Mark Vientos is definitely an interesting name to watch over here for the next 48-ish hours. But he will not be the only one that's asked about. I did see, I believe he said some comments to Will Salmon of The Athletic that, like, for the majority of his career, it just feels like nobody likes him, at least as far as the fan base goes. And that was very sad. It's a reality. Like, people, like, these guys are people, and it's unfortunate he feels that way. And maybe for him to, maybe just a change of scenery would be really good for him, because New York it's not for everybody. There's a lot of pressure that comes with playing in New York and playing in Queens. So maybe whether it's the White Sox or another team, a change of scenery could be good for them.
That is also how I feel sometimes reading the comments or the Twitter mentions, but you know what? We just have to move on and persevere. New York, a tough market. So is the Baseball Insider's comment section.
Yeah. And I'll also say this, Brian Harris, I agree with you. Vientos for Luis Robert Jr. would be a huge overpay. Mm-hmm. I can't see that being if it happened, I can't see it being a 1-for-1 deal. I would expect I would think there would be more, but that's just my own opinion and not really anything any insider information by any means. And yes, I've seen the comments here from MLB Deadline News and King JB. I still think Joe Ryan's very unlikely to move. I'd be pretty shocked by that. So sorry, Adam, I cut you off, but I wanted to address both of those.
Did not cut me off at all. We've got a lot to get through, and we're going to try to give as many comments life as we possibly can. I'm going to pivot to these Brewers comments because there was a distinct link in that Ken Rosenthal piece last night too between the Brewers and Ryan O'Hearn, which has led to a lot of Brewers people today asking me, like, All right. Well, that's, O'Hearn, Vaughn, Hoskins. What comes next? That's a lot of dudes who do similar things. The Boston Red Sox have been linked to O'Hearn, and we know they need a first baseman, and we know maybe Tristan Casas does not have the job handed to him next year. Maybe he's not even ready for opening day. What do you think about this comment and the Brewers O'Hearn connection in general?
Yeah, I totally understand the connection between Ryan O'Hearn and the Milwaukee Brewers. It's something that I have kind of heard behind the scenes since the All-Star game, if not a little bit before that. And they're going to be one of just a many team that's going to be involved in this. Like the Houston Astros are a team that I've heard like connected him quite a bit. I would also put the San Diego Padres as a team that makes sense on O'Hearn. I would not be surprised if Preller's checked in on that one at all. There's going to be a nice market for him. He's an all-star this year, and he's been a very productive player. Obviously, he's a rental candidate for sure because he's only signed through the rest of this year. But he fits exactly what I've heard that the Brewers want to do this deadline. And if you read my column from last week, the Brewers were looking for 3 specific things: a backup catcher, and they got it yesterday with Danny Jensen. They are looking for another infielder in terms of, that could be Ryan O'Hearn. He can also play the outfield. He could also DH. Like there's a lot of different possibilities there with O'Hearn. And they're also looking for an optionable reliever. So they're looking for plenty of different things. Marco Attanasio he has said that nothing is off the table for them. I'm curious to see if he can actually put his money where his mouth is. But the fact that he said that, and also got Danny Jensen, who I know is struggling this year, but he's actually a capable catcher. So far, so good. But could Hoskins be sold to Boston for cheap? I don't think the Brewers would mind that and getting rid of that salary, but I cannot say that's something I've heard.
Well, if you're looking for controllable relievers, maybe come on back to the Yankees and talk to them about Ian Hamilton, who is controllable but is also not good, which brings me to the soft buy portion of the program. Back-to-back questions about what the Yankees do here. And I think a lot of their insiders have maybe backed off the aggression because they know a little bit more about what this team is and what their ceiling is, though they are in a playoff spot. They do need pitching to survive. They need to solidify what they have. Joel Sherman basically said he hasn't really backed off from they'd like a starter, maybe 2. They'd like 2 relievers and a lefty, maybe 3. Like they need that to get to the finish line. So Andy Martino was the one to basically say he'd heard they floated Bellinger and Goldschmidt before they knew Aaron Judge would theoretically come back this year. So I don't blame anyone for asking about, hey, what sell rentals, sell Grisham, see what we can do. At this point, I'd be shocked if they sell Ben Rice or Dominguez or anyone who has a future there, but I would not be surprised. It would surprise me more if they went all out than if they held back completely. But I do think they need to get their hands on a couple relievers who make sense for the roster. What are you thinking between soft buy, soft sell, aggressive buy? Where are we?
Yeah, first of all, MLB Deadline news, if you can clarify the question that you meant before about the Padres and O'Hearn, that would be great because I didn't know exactly what you were asking there. But going to the Yankees here, they're absolutely going to be looking for pitching, and their deadline focus is pitching. It's very similar to what we've said about the Chicago Cubs, and they are going to add arms. We've seen them be aggressive in getting Ryan McMahon. They've got Ahmed Rosario. They've also traded Carlos Carrasco. So they've been active in conversations for sure. I don't know. I don't think it'll end up being anything too splashy unless something changes here. And also, if you look at this Yankees team, is this really a team that you go all in on and just shed your big prospects to? I know that was sarcasm from Adam.
They have the second worst record in baseball behind I think it's the Nationals, but they've been worse than the Rockies and White Sox for the last 8 weeks, basically.
Yeah, and to me, it's just not a team that you go all in on at all. And they're not moving Spencer Jones. I saw the report that they're open to it. No, I don't expect them to move Dominguez. I don't know. Cody Bellinger, I can't see them doing that. Here's one that this is total speculation on my end, but with the Yankees looking for pitching and Grisham a rental guy, could like a Dustin May for Trent Grisham swap make sense? Like I don't think it would happen. I don't think there'd be any chance of it happening, but I mean, that's again my own speculation. Please don't aggregate that because that's just my own thoughts. But no, I don't expect them to be moving any big pieces there in New York.
Yeah, the Yankees do love to trade with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers love it too, I'm sure, because they benefited twice last year. But Grisham feels like a little expensive to give up for Dustin May for a couple of months of Dustin May. But I thought we might get a Yankees May connection materialize yesterday instead of just the rumor. Cashman is so frugal yet wants everyone's top guys. I don't think he wants everyone's top guys. I also don't think he's that frugal. The Yankees have given away 2 starting catchers this year. So there's that.
No, they are a tough team to deal with in trade talks. I can confidently say that. Very, very tough.
No, I think they're awesome. Everybody should be dealing with them all the time. All right, we got to go to Padres because we got a super chat and we thank you for that. We're going to start getting to some of your teams in rapid fire. We appreciate all the comments. We will be back again tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern. Again, when hopefully more has happened and more is going down, maybe more even happens during the stream. But what's AJ Preller up to? We appreciate you taking the financial hit and asking us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brian Harris. What I can say on the Padres is they are checking on a lot of different things. I wouldn't be surprised if Preller makes a few moves. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like for them, but I could see them absolutely doing what Preller does and making an all-out pursuit for Steven Kwan. That's not reporting, but that's just knowing how AJ Preller operates. When a player of that caliber is possibly available and you have a need in the outfield, Preller is going to call, and they have the prospects in order to do so. So I could see Preller being very involved in that market. I could also see him being involved in the starting pitching market. I could see him being involved in the relief market. I believe he's involved in both. Again, I have not gotten the sense that they want to move either Cease or Suarez. Like they don't want to diminish the bullpen depth that they have. But if they have an opportunity where they can move them and somehow get better on the major league roster, I believe that they would entertain that. Going back to my O'Hearn link with the Padres, that's me connecting dots more than anything, MLB deadline news, but the Astros are indeed interested. I can say that much. But no, the Padres to me are one of the teams to watch here in the coming 24, 48 hours because deadline spur action, and there is no GM who loves making more moves than AJ Preller.
Chaos agent in a chaotic deadline. Got another super chat asking about Brandon Lau to the Mets as well, which I saw Andy Martino tweet mid-show, and he had an interesting tone to it too. Andy Martino tweets always have an interesting tone. Andy, quote, a lot of balls in the air with Mets right now, but Brandon Lau is worth watching because they also had interest and talked to Rays about him last year. Per sources, Lau is hurt right now, but is an all-star, and he's having another 800 OPS year. Is there anything to this smoke, and what's the situation here?
I can say that I have not heard that one, but the Mets have made it pretty clear that their focus has been pitching in outfield. So we'll see exactly what that means as far as Brandon Lau goes. But that is what I can say that the Mets' focus is at this point. And Lau to the Giants, any chance? Can't say that's something that I've heard. I've seen a bunch of different Giants questions here, and I'll actually just dive into it now. Yeah. And to me, they are still a team that is in position to add, whether it's to the rotation or it's to the infield. And we've seen a lot of different reports on Camilo Doval as far as him being a potential trade candidate. I have not gotten the sense that the Giants are eager to move him by any means. But that being said, there are many teams who have checked in on Doval, and maybe that could lead to a deal. I don't expect that to happen, but there's so many teams that are in need of bullpen help that they're trying to be creative and seeking who could be available. And Doval is definitely someone who is on the radar of almost every contender. But again, I don't expect him to move.
Appreciate the questions. Going to get to a few more of your teams. The Angels, and specifically the Angels and Kenley Jansen. Sometimes I hesitate to bring up the Angels on these streams because we all know that intel now could be completely different in 8 hours. But what are your current What are your why did I go with 8 when I could have just gone with 6 minutes? But current thoughts on the Angels after Gustavo Campero learns how to catch a fly ball, and then the Angels rally and win anyway and hold off the Rangers.
Yeah, I had somebody recently tell me that they're in the worst position you could possibly be in come the deadline. They're in a spot where you don't know what you're gonna do, and they are listening on their rental guys for sure, but they are a team that even a win today and a win tomorrow could totally change your deadline plans, and that is a very dangerous game for any front office to operate with, and that's why I don't expect hardly any Angels movement between now and maybe even the 31st. Obviously, a deal can come across the finish line for sure, but no, the Angels are at a really really bad spot right now, and usually it's not very fun being an Angels fan, and I can say it again right now. This would not be a fun time to be an Angels fan.
Appreciate all the Angels fans we have and folks watching, but yeah, rough stuff. What about the Phillies in the outfield? Want to bring this one up because I've seen them linked to Cedric Mullins. I've seen them linked to Luis Robert. This comment does not want Cedric Mullins involved in the Phillies plans whatsoever. Bryce Harper upset the apple cart a little bit by bringing up that Suarez stuff and the position changing. Also upset the apple cart by getting in Rob Manfred's face and screaming at him. But what are you feeling about the Phillies plans as they approach the deadline?
Yeah, Philly is being very active in conversations around the league. The bullpen market is definitely the area that I believe they've been the most aggressive in. And Luis Robert Jr. has been a name that they have been connected to. And I'm sorry to say it, Lynx 2K, I think that's how you pronounce your name. If they're being connected to Luis Robert Jr., they're very likely going to be connected to Cedric Mullins. So, I expect Dombrowski to be active. I had someone around the league who's been in contact with Philly say that they seem primed for a big move. What exactly that move could be, I don't know. But you never sleep on Dave Dombrowski at this time of the year. He's a lot like AJ Preller in that regard. He likes to strike, and he also likes to strike in silence.
My ideal Yankees trade deadline. This changes every 6 minutes for me because I don't want them to sell like real assets. And yesterday I was pretty focused on Escara plus prospects for 2 months of Dylan Cease. And then I watched Dylan Cease and I watched every Padres fan I know melt down over Dylan Cease. And I was like, man, if we had 4-inning, 98 pitch Dylan Cease, I would be infuriated by that. So I liked the Rosario rental. Ryan McMahon move gets like a B from me. But I have to accept those are in my ideal deadline because they already happened. I would like, I don't want to pay the Duran price. An Anthony Bender type would feel good to me. I like Willie Castro a lot. And then give me, I don't know. I don't like any of these people, but absolutely Danny Coulomb. And then some innings eating starter, Charlie Morton. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think Danny Coulomb's a good shout for you because it's not going to be expensive by any means, and he's a quality, dependable, like veteran reliever. And I feel like he hasn't gotten that much buzz on the trade market by any means, but he's a name that I think we shouldn't be forgetting about, whether it's the Yankees or whether it's the Blue Jays or whoever. He makes plenty of sense for a lot of different teams. And the Blue Jays, I can confidently say, still remain very active in looking for pitching help. It's surprising. I don't think we've gotten a single Blue Jays question today, but that is the area that I continue to hear them linked the most in Toronto.
I think, let me say Merrill Kelly, because I really like Merrill Kelly. Maybe I'm the high man on him, but I'll upgrade my Charlie Morton spot to Kelly. Give me a controllable reliever, give me Coulomb, and give me one more, utility guy like Castro. And then we'll see where we go from there. And Oswald Peraza can link up and become an all-star infielder for the 27 San Francisco Giants. Let's close with the Cubs because we're getting a few Cubs questions. Don't want to leave them out. I know we got a lot of Cubs watchers.
Yeah, the Cubs pitching, and more pitching. And we've seen them connected to Mackenzie Gore. I would be stunned if that happened. I can't picture that being something that the Nationals do now, especially with an interim GM there. So I would not look for them to do that right now. Edward Cabrera, that is a name that that makes a lot of sense for the Cubs. And I can confidently say that the Marlins and Cubs have talked plenty across this entire month. So that is, Rich Hill just got DFA'd. That's sad. Shout out to Dick Mountain. I give him a lot of credit for coming back like that and doing what he did. But I'd be really surprised if the Cubs left this deadline without a starting pitcher and quite possibly a reliever as well. And Jed Hoyer, I know there's people who are joking that he went to hibernation after signing his extension. That is not actually the case. He is definitely on the lookout for pitching, and he's going to be cautious not to overpay for it.
Could not do a baseball stream today, too, without thanking Ryne Sandberg for his contributions to the game of baseball. I think we all knew when he put his statement out, and the Cubs honored him so heavily with Kerry Wood and John Lester at those weekend games. He didn't go to Cooperstown. We all knew that the news was not going to be good, and unfortunately, we got the news we all expected yesterday. Legend of the game, the Cubs do not exist without him. And for that franchise to lose Ernie Banks, Ron Santo, Ryne Sandberg, a lot of that history now gone. But also the reason the Cubs are the Cubs is because Ryne Sandberg woke them up in the 80s. They went from lovable losers to a team with expectations to eventually World Series champions. He saw it also rest easy to one of the men who played the game the way it was supposed to be played and played it great for an extremely long time.
Yeah, and I can say on my end, he is about as respected of a guy as you'll find in baseball. There's not any person who could say a bad word about him. And I thought Craig Counsell put it a really cool way yesterday when he was talking about him after the game yesterday. Is Ryne Sandberg, even when he was fighting this battle and things were not looking that great, he just wanted to do one thing. He wanted to be around the boys in the clubhouse, and he was there in spring training, trying to be around the team as much as he could. Guy was a baseball lifer. So shout out to Sandberg for an incredible legacy, and thinking of all Cubs fans, Cubs players, and everyone who's been around Sandberg throughout his life and his career, because it seems we can say pretty confidently he touched a lot of people.
Yeah, Wade Boggs' comment as his Hall of Fame classmate just sort of killed me. All the Hall of Famers this weekend, according to Jason Stark, we're sort of waiting for the news and the timing. I mean, I'm glad it did not happen while they were all there, but the timing slightly better than it could have been, I guess. Very upsetting, depressing. And everybody watched Schwan Dunston on MLB Network today, too. Basically just said, Rhino showed him and Mark Grace and Andre Dawson love in his final days and wanted to show love to every Cubs fan as well. So every Cubs fan, you were beloved by Ryne Sandberg. Trust that is true. All right, we will see you right back here on the stream tomorrow afternoon, 3:30 Eastern. Maybe the dam will break by then. Maybe you won't just be sifting through the comments. Maybe you won't have to, flatter me and compliment my beard, which is honestly a 6.5 out of 10 at best. We could just keep rolling right into the news drops and rumor mill stuff because, man, we need some action here. I just need one. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not greedy.
No, I'm not trying not to be greedy either. I'm not kidding you. I was sitting on my balcony before the show started, and Cooper sat as far away from me as he could and gave me the sad puppy dog eyes. And I sent it to a few executives being like, this is what the lack of movement around the league is doing to my dog. Like, do something. And, I mean, so far we haven't seen any moves. So clearly they hate Cooper. It's very, very sad. Kind of I don't even know where I'm going with that. But I'm anxious for some moves to happen. I would imagine something happens today, but the dam will definitely break soon. And I am very ready for that. And hopefully we break plenty of stories here. So we'll see. But thank you, Adam. And everyone in the comments, we appreciate you. Hunter, our lovely producer for the day, we appreciate you. See you back here tomorrow. Hi, Adam.
No reason not to see you back here tomorrow. We will be here. Will you be? Hopefully. You can also catch us. Can also catch us at the National this weekend, recapping the trade deadline, talking to guests, and more. 2 live shows on the stage at the National Card Show in Chicago, August 2nd and 3rd, 10 a.m. Central, both of those days. We can't wait to see you if you are from the Chicagoland area. Cooper, I do not think we'll be making an appearance. No, we don't bring dogs. But maybe some pictures of Cooper, maybe some pictures of Biscuit. And we appreciate everybody joining us. Come to the live show. You'll find out. I will too.
No, that we will. We'll have lots of stuff to talk about, but I'm anxious to hopefully break some news here. So we'll see, but I got some phone calls to make. So let's hop off the line.
All right, let's do it. We'll see everybody back here tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern. Until then, take care.
Thank you, everybody.